Hey, I'm Will, and I'm going to give you a walk around on Bouncing Betty, my 2006 Jeep Wrangler LJ. So to start off, it's a 2006 Jeep Wrangler LJ with a 4.0 automatic, currently sitting on 38-inch tires with a Dana 44 and a Dana 60 from a 1979 F250. Currently sitting at 168,000 miles with a 3.5-inch metal cloak spring, 1.25-inch JKS body lift, and a Iron Rock off-road long arm kit. For shocks, I am running Rusty's R35 14-inch travel shocks in custom towers in the front and outboarded shocks in the rear. 14 inches all the way around. Starting at the front, I have a homemade custom bumper with a rough country winch plate and a Rugged Ridge 8,500 pound winch, some nightlight LEDs. These things unfortunately do give off a green light, so I would probably not suggest going with nightlight and going with something a little better. My headlights have built-in turn signals and driving lights. I found out that if you have the driving lights on, the turn signal stays solid. So it's a wearing issue, but I just got rid of the driving light function and they function fantastically. Up here, I have a custom air intake because when I did my custom shock towers, I had to figure something out and the stock airbox did not work. Let me pop open the hood for you. So under the hood, we got a few interesting things going on. Came with some Smitty built flat fenders. I did a DIY highline to them, which kind of changed a few things on it. The battery box no longer is mounted to the body, it's now mounted right to the fender. Got the Rough Country MLC6 light controller under it, absolutely fantastic. Only thing I'm concerned about with it is it's right above the motor, and that might give off a bit more heat than I like, but it works. And then here's the air intake that a lot of people ask about. I took the stock air intake tube, cut it at the end, and then I went to AutoZone, got myself some Spectre air intake stuff. All in all, my air intake I think cost me about 80 bucks. It is a piece of aluminum ducting with a frisbee on it. It has a Spectre cone filter, which is supposed to be made by K&N and provide better filtration than the actual K&Ns. I don't know how true it is, but you know what? It works. So the air intake is there because the stock airbox fits right in here. Then when I mounted the shock towers, I didn't really plan ahead and they did not fit. But you know what? It's well worth it. Other than that, just a very reliable 4.0. Never really gave me too many issues, just some cooling, but around 150,000 miles, you're probably going to want to change out the radiator and all that fun stuff anyway. And I got myself a AutoZone battery. It sure holds a charge pretty darn good. After 2 months of sitting without ever being turned on, it was dead, but I did use the radio quite a bit for music. All in all, I'd say it's doing pretty darn good where it matters. Inside the Jeep, it's nothing too special. Got some grab handles, which are a gosh darn lifesaver when you need to get in and out. Over here, I got my RAM mount hooked up so I can hook my phone up to my radio. And then down here, it's a little hard to see, but this is a bike shifter lever, which acts as a throttle control. You could use it as a poor man's cruise control or give it a high idle for winching. Whatever you so choose, obviously use that with your own wisdom. Cable I ran right under the dash, and it comes around. And then it doesn't look good, but it hasn't fallen off. It's right there hooked up to the throttle. Probably my favorite mod for comfort would be a WJ seat. I modified it so I still have the tilt and fold. It's not a very great job, but it does work. You can still slide it forward. I got the nice little lever from a 97 Jeep seat. And then somewhere under here, you reach down and you got the tilt and tumble, making it nice and easy for someone to get into the back. If I still had my seat, they could sit back there, but nah, it's all just parts and recovery gear. Going back to the interior, I also have a bed rug floor liner, and then a wild boar hardtop, which came with a carpeting, which does actually seem to be color matched, and it does help with sound. Bed rug, I have nothing but praise for it. If you get it dirty, pull it out, pressure wash it, it's great. So talking about the hardtop, I have a wild boar fastback hardtop. It's a bit dirty at the moment, but you know, she's a work in progress. Big downfall is I bought it with a smashback window. So right now it is a piece of Lexan, I believe. It's supposed to be bulletproof and all that, but it's really wobbly and I don't feel it's strong enough to hold the struts. So right now, piece of Lexan. All in all, I love this hardtop, although I don't think I'll be running it too much more. Because with the price of hardtops and with how much I like to meet trees, it ain't gonna last. So also on the back, right now I don't have a rear bumper because I sold my old one and I'm gonna be adding a new rear bumper, but I got a tow hitch from a friend, so I at least have a recovery point in the back. These are the Quadratec LED taillights. Absolutely phenomenal. Nice and bright. Let me go turn on the flasher so you can see. Absolutely astonishing how bright they are. So going back to these taillights, I can tell you that they are durable as all get up. I backed into a tree like I like to do every once in a blue moon. Broke the, I actually ripped it out of the sheet metal. Found out the hard way that you have to bolt the light to the body, otherwise there's not a ground, and then the lights don't work. For rock sliders, I went with the Rugged Ridge rock sliders. They are body mounted if someone does care. Personally, I don't see a big difference between body mounted and frame mounted, as you know what, I've rarely ever hit my rockers anyway, and it's an off-road toy. It's gonna get beat up. So, you know, a little something is better than nothing. And then there's my JKS 1.25 inch body lift. Just a little puck added on it. And a JKS 1-inch motor mount lift, that red block right there. While I'm in here, I did do the OPDA swap from, I believe, Crown, and then I reused the factory sensor, as those are supposed to not be changed out. I'm not sure why, but you know, I'm going to trust the internet on this one. And then a K&N oil filter. It's very rare that I've had to have issues removing the oil filter, but I do love that giant nut on the back, and there's no way that's not coming off, especially because I do the oil change and I only do it hand tight. So for the front shock towers, they are a bit custom. A Facebook page, I believe, called Jeep West gave me the idea. I instead used a Barnes 4-wheel drive, I believe it's the extended shock tower mount, and I cut off the original, welded this one on, and don't judge my welds, they aren't the best, but after probably 15,000 miles of use, they're still holding up great. And then as for the hydro shocks, I live in Wisconsin. They aren't great in winter, but it also encourages you not to drive in winter, because these hydro shocks get super stiff when it's cold out. I'd say about 40 degrees is about as low of temperature as you want to drive with these shocks. Otherwise, if you do drive in winter, it takes about a half hour for them to heat up to get to a bearable level. Right now, it rides like a boat. Or I just say an 80s caddy. It floats. It's great. So going under the Jeep, it has a Dana 44 from a 1979 F-250, and in the rear is a Dana 60 from a 1979 F-250. Currently with 410 gears, open in the front, limited slip in the back on 38s. Got these knuckles off of Amazon, or I should say eBay, because my old ones were a bit rusty, and it comes with a steering arm on the driver's side, which was rusted on, and quite frankly, I was lazy and had more money than time. Right up here, I got a steering skid plate made by one of my friends. I believe Sloth Fab Works on Instagram would be his Instagram name. For steering linkage, I did a kit from Barnes 4-wheel drive with Heim joints all over the place. Not exactly the best if you're daily driving it, but she's a trailer queen. This is probably never really going to see the road again, except for a few trips between trails. For the track bar, also kind of used Barnes 4-wheel drive for the Heims and the metal. The truss on the Dana 44 is a TNT truss. Fantastic company to work with. Mine did have a little fitment issue. Up right around here, I did have to cut out a little bit of the truss so it would fit over the diff pumpkin. And then I did go for the stock track bar mount. That unfortunately did not work, as I kind of changed the steering up a bit. So stock mount's there. One day I'm going to get hydro assist, and that'll make it nice and easy. So I just mounted a 2x4 tube, a 1/4 inch thick, to the top of the track bar mount. Made my new track bar mount, and they are sitting nice and flat. My initial drive yesterday, it seemed like it turned easier with this steering, just stock little steering Mercedes box, which is supposed to be kind of garbage, but it's working out just fine. On the street, it worked great. I've had no issues turning 38s, lock to lock, and I'm not running a steering stabilizer. I fall under the mindset that a steering stabilizer just hides your issues, so so fix your issues before you throw a new steering stabilizer on. Otherwise, it's just going to come back to bite you in the future. Coming around to the underside, I got Dorman extender brake lines. I fall under the mindset that a brake line is a brake line. I'm not going to pay extra to get that fancy stainless steel braiding on it, because on the inside, it's the same darn thing. For a long arm kit, I went with the Iron Rock Off-Road Rock Link. It is a 3-link in front and a triangulated 4-link in the rear. It gives me the ability to have an almost flat belly. Probably one of the most tucked systems I've found at the time. From what I understand, Rock Crawler is coming out with a new system, which should be pretty similar. But I got what I got, and I'm happy with it. Big thing I would suggest is getting a skid plate to cover the transmission and oil pan. This is my second my second transmission pan and my third oil pan, because I decided to keep crushing them, and I'm just too cheap and lazy to get skid plates. One day that'll happen though. So downfall of the Iron Rock kit is you do have to do custom exhaust. So I kind of followed their instructions on their exhaust kit. Had to do a little pipe kinking. Just do a straight pipe basically. And it comes back here to a nice 28-inch cherry bomb. Axle dumped I'm not a fan of this. I would like to get it swinging out of the back just like it was from the factory, but for now it works. It's just loud and annoying. Coming from the back, I did move the gas tank all the way to the rear with the stock skid plate. It is mounted to the original cross member, but I did drill a couple new holes to let it fit properly. And then, if you can see those welds, because I have a body lift, I'm able to tuck the gas tank up about an inch, which gives me a little bit better clearance. For the truss, it is a Iron Rock off-road truss, which makes it easy for their long arm kit, and a few other Barnes parts. Coming up over here, it is a Poison Spider outboard shock mount. I lucked out on this one. It's just barely not touching the little divider between the wheel well and the fuel filler area. And I mounted it out here. This is a Rough Stuff disc brake conversion kit for the Dana 60. There's two different styles. I did run into a small issue where the bracket for the caliper wasn't bent right. I gave them a call. They gave me a good idea on using basically a little washer to space out the bracket. That let it sit perfectly, and they were absolutely knowledgeable and fantastic company to work with. So as for paint, I did do a frame off restoration, or rustoration, as some may like to call it. I did coat the entire underside of the Jeep with Pour 15 and the frame up to about where the front door hinges are. Pour 15, I can't say I'm a fan of it. There's a lot of rust just popping through. I did this about a year and a half ago. Started rusting through in 4 months, and I did it in spring. Whereas the paint, it's all Rust-Oleum. I have nothing but good things to say about the Rust-Oleum, especially their rust reformer. It's this front bumper, I probably initially painted 3 years ago, where all the rust is coming through. That's damage from rocks. But you know, a can of Rust-Oleum's what, $8? Versus doing the Pour 15 for, I don't know, $100. And all in all, I'm just cheap and I'd rather make it work. So right now I'm sitting at a 108-inch wheelbase. Front did get stretched about 1.5 inches, and the rear probably 2.5 or so. I'm hoping it's gonna let me not get stuck in ruts that other people make. You know, all the people with the JKs or JKUs, JLUs and whatnot, they'll create their ruts and I'll be able to avoid them hopefully. It's 83 inches wide. So right now it's a definite work in progress. As you can see, I definitely need to trim the rear fenders quite a bit. That's what that blue painter's tape is for, and the Sharpie on the side. So with the DIY Highlines, I did have to change out the washer fluid pump. I've got this little guy from Napa. It's some kind of coolant reservoir. Just bolted it to the side. Gives me just enough to get through a day of wheeling. Come summertime, I'd say fill it with water because these things just love to catch mud and bugs on the windshield. The inner fenders are not complete. It's leaving everything open, but that's leaving a lot of air for coolant, so it's all great. Going back to the hood, I did trim it up to allow for the DIY Highline fenders. I did lose the stock hood latches, but mine were about worn out. I went with the Daystar hood pins, I believe from Quadratech. Absolutely fantastic, nice and simple, easy to adjust, easy to lift off. And then it opens just like a normal hood. Just gotta push it down a little, fit it in, and there you go. going to stuff I'd change about this right now. Right now I'm on 410 gears. I'm planning on doing 488s with Eaton E-lockers. I'm going with Eaton because I want something simple-ish. And I'm not a big fan of the ARB. Just adding the air compressor, I feel that's another point of failure. Living in Wisconsin, it gets freezing cold in winter, and I don't want to risk getting a frozen airline. I'm also going to do an Eaton in the rear. And then because it's a trailer queen, I'm doing 488s, give the ring and pinion a little more strength. I don't see any reason why 488s would be absolutely terrible. Ran 373s on 35s, just turn off the overdrive, and it does everything just fine. No overheating on the transmission. Fluid is still nice and pink after probably 20-some thousand miles. Fair chunk of that being nice and abused. So when I did swap the transmission pan because I crushed the original ones, the new one does come with a drain plug, which ideally I won't really need to do anything about that. But all in all, it's pretty darn nice.